Hi, and welcome back to Apple Cottage. This is Sandy. Today is the second episode of our gardening series called Gardening Together. And today's topic, tomatoes. Everything tomatoes. So let's get down and dirty about tomatoes. So grab your cup of tea and let's get started. Now, as you know, I love facts about vegetables. So just a few facts to start us out with. Right now, there's about 3,000 different heirloom or heritage varieties of tomatoes across the world. Now, an heirloom or heritage variety, some people will say has to be bred before 1920, others 1940. I just want them to be old varieties. I love heirloom varieties of tomatoes. I don't care about the irregular sizes and shapes, but the flavors are so spectacular. But if it doesn't matter to you when that tomato was bred, there's actually 15,000 different types of tomatoes for sale in the world today, from every country you can imagine. And so this is very exciting to me. You can get tomatoes in orange, grape colored, purple, to almost a black one, pink, red, yellow, white, green, multicolored, multi-striped. Some of them have almost spots on them. So that's fun. It can really add pizzazz to your salads or your pizzas or anything that you're cooking, or just as a slicer. That's one of the reasons I love heirloom tomatoes, because they're great slicers and the flavor just enhances those sandwiches so much. And so that's fun for me. Two things that you have to decide when you go to do tomatoes. Do you want determinate or indeterminate? What does that mean? An indeterminate tomato is a tomato that is going to grow and grow and grow, so almost vine-like. It just keeps growing up. And they can get 8 feet to 20 feet tall. Now a determinate, it's more like a bush tomato. You might get it 2 or 3 feet tall. It's not going to grow any taller than that. It'll bush out more. But it just depends on what you want. And then there's ones on the market now that are like micro tomatoes. And these are just tiny tomatoes that they might get 12 to 18 inches tall. And they're perfect for your patio. You can set them on a table, and then so easy to move inside. Because tomatoes will last much longer than what they do in our gardens. So you have to decide those two things. One of my tricks that I always do, because I start my tomatoes from seed. There's been a couple years that I've been so busy, I didn't start them, so I had to buy the seedlings from greenhouses or box stores. I have always been disappointed that a lot of times you're going to get bugs that have been harboring in the soil, so that disappoints me. You can get leaf curl, and then you've wasted your money. So after a couple summers of that, I vowed I was never going to buy tomatoes from a box store or a greenhouse. Not that you might have great luck, I just haven't. And so I just choose not to. Besides, I like to save my seeds, and I like to collect seeds, and people know that I love tomatoes, and so they give me seeds. Now, when I first dry my seeds that I'm saving, I keep them in an envelope for a couple months. But when I'm sure that they're completely dry and I don't have to worry about them anymore, I put them in these fun little glass jars. I got these on the internet. It's very fun. You can mark on them. And then if you use up all those seeds and you want to put something else in the bottle, you just use fingernail polish remover and it takes the marker off and you can use it again. And it makes it real easy for me to put information on the jar. I don't have to worry about losing a piece of paper. And so like this one is an extra large Russian Anna. I grew it last year. I saved the seeds. Last year was cool and rainy, so I wrote that on there. And I wrote the summer of 2019. I'm going to put that up there and see if you can see any of that writing. So see, it's Russian Anna, extra large, cool, rainy, summer 2019. It's an easy way for me to keep track. And I love these jars. I love jars. I love containers. So this is so fun for me. I have different size containers. I have this size, this size. I'm going to put these right there so you can see all my different sizes. I actually have 5 different sizes. of little jars. I'm going to move these so it makes it easier for you to see. How fun is that? Now sometimes people will give me some seeds, and maybe it's only 2 or 3 seeds. You know, they just saved a few out of one of their tomatoes and they gave it to me. So it's still, because it's glass, I can still write on it. I just have to be careful what information I put on there. Like this one was given to me and they just told me that it was orange and pink. And so I just wrote pink orange. So this year I'm going to try that. I just have a couple seeds, but really I only need 1 seed to germinate. And then I can save the seeds myself. And so that makes it easy. Now, when I plant my tomato seeds, I plant them deep. I'm starting them either inside or in my little greenhouse. And by the time I plant them, they're easily 6 to 8 to 10 inches tall. I'm going to break up all those bottom branches except for the very top leaves, and I'm going to bury it that deep. So only those 3 or 4, 5 leaves are sticking out. And the reason I do that is because all along that stem, it will make roots, feeder roots, and it'll make the tomato stronger. It will live longer. It's less likely to get disease because it has more roots to get more water and nutrients. And so that's just a trick I do. I grow some of my tomatoes in my greenhouse, but most of them I grow outside. And there's benefits to both of them. The benefit that growing it in the greenhouse, I can start it earlier and my season is extended. Though there are things I can do outside to do row covers and things like that to extend my season too. I haven't had disease problems either way. I haven't found that to be a factor. But I do like to extend the season, and so I always make sure I have a couple of the tomatoes that I really like on the inside, because then I can have tomatoes, fresh tomatoes, until November. Now, if I want tomatoes longer than that, I always grow some tomatoes in pots also. So I'll bring some of the pots inside. Or I'll cut up a branch or a sucker, a branch that you don't really need on your tomato plant, and I'll put it in water and I'll root it. I use some rooting hormone, and they root really pretty easy. And then I can plant that as a new tomato in the fall, and then I can have tomatoes in the wintertime. I do have to make sure I put it in a south window because they need a lot of light, or I have to use one of my lights that's an artificial light to help them. I don't get as many tomatoes, of course, but I do get some, and that's really nice to have fresh tomatoes, because the difference between a store-bought tomato and a regular tomato are worlds apart. Now, there's a lot of different types of tomatoes. There's cherry tomatoes, ones that are shaped like pears. There's what they call grapes, which are really a grape shape, but larger than a grape. Beefsteaks. They have ones that are called cocktail tomatoes, and those are tomatoes that are really good if you're making a barbecue sauce. There's heirlooms, heritage, plum tomatoes, hybrids. So many things to decide. And a hybrid usually is just one that was cross-pollinated so that it has a benefit of both parents. Now, a tomato flower is completely self-sustaining. It has male and female parts in it. It doesn't need an insect to pollinate it. So what I use, I take an electric toothbrush, got it at the dollar store. I've used it for, this will be my 4th summer on this one. And you just vibrate the very back of that tomato flower. And what it does, the pollen has to only fall 1/4 of an inch to pollinate that. And that can just make you have so many more tomatoes than you would otherwise. A lot of times people are saying, what's my problem? Because they think insects pollinate them. They don't. The wind will pollinate them because it vibrates the tomato plants. But especially in the greenhouse, I have to pollinate all of my flowers. So what I do is every morning I walk around and I vibrate every flower that's opened. And I just get buckets, literally buckets, I'm going to show you a picture later, of tomatoes. It's just fantastic. Even last summer when it was so cool and rainy for most of the summer, and I didn't have a red tomato until way late in July. Then all of a sudden, the weather warmed up a little bit, and those tomatoes, they just made so much fruit. It was spectacular. because honestly, a tomato is a fruit. It's not a vegetable. Okay, so then you have to decide, what are your favorites? What do you want to plant? Right here, I'm showing you my jars of tomatoes. I actually have 58 different types of tomatoes. And it's always expanding because people are always giving me more tomatoes. For a small tomato, this is called a Thai pink egg tomato. It's shaped like an egg and it's pink. They're so fun. I love them in salads. This is a terracotta tomato. It's brown like a terracotta pot. Huge tomato, very juicy, great slicer. And I could just go through all of them. I do have some right up in front here. These are some new ones I'm trying this year. So I'm so excited about that. Got them from, most of them from a little company out of Minnesota. I haven't ever ordered from before. But I like all the information I found out about their company. And I like to support small companies because I think it's important. Then one of the tomatoes I got, this was a free one. Sometimes when you order, they give you free packets of seeds. At Baker Seeds, they always do that. And this is a purple Russian tomato. So that's going to be an interesting one to use. This one is called a Bill Bean Select. It's supposed to be a huge, huge tomato, 2 and 3 pound tomato. So that's very interesting. And this one is probably going to be my most interesting. It's called Get Stuffed. It's a tomato that doesn't really have juice inside. It has walls throughout the center, and you're supposed to slice it open, stuff it with things, and bake it, or roast it. Or I might put it in the pizza oven with a whole bunch of them. And so that is going to be an interesting tomato. It kind of has speckles on it. It's red with some speckles. Now, how do I take care of my tomatoes during the summertime? I'm going to plant them after I don't have to worry at all that there's going to be any frost. Other than in my greenhouse, I'll plant those before the last frost date. And then I like to feed them every couple weeks. I like to use a fish emulsion. I just mix it up in my watering can, pour it all the way around. I know there's people that use Epsom salt sprays and different kinds of sprays, but the fish emulsion and my regular compost just seems to do the trick, and so it's worked real well for me. And when you're picking your tomatoes, what are you going to do with your tomatoes? So when you decide what seeds or what plants you're going to purchase, do you really want them more as slicers? Are you going to use them on sandwiches? Are you going to put them in salads? Are you going to make paste or sauces out of them? Are you going to can some of them? Are you going to dry them? That can affect what you do. For me, I grow them all. I have cherries, I have plums, I have pear, I have ones that are grapes. My very favorite new grape tomato, I guess I would call it a grape because that's kind of the shape of it, is called atomic. It starts out when it's growing and it'll be kind of bluish purple with some green. Then, as it starts to ripen though, it has all these reds and purples and yellows and oranges, and the taste is out of the world. It is the most fantastic tasting tomato. And I've eaten a lot of different tomatoes because I just love them. But this is really an interesting tomato. You can get them in a lot of catalogs now because I've gotten many catalogs and they've had them in there. So try that if you have a chance. But tomatoes are just a phenomenal thing. You can add them to soups, stews, you can dry them, you can add them to salads, pizzas. We use them all the time in our lives. So grow some of your tomatoes yourself. So I hope you liked episode 2, Growing Tomatoes. And always like my videos, subscribe, and share the videos with the world. So this is Sandy at Apple Cottage. I hope you have a great day. We're having a snowstorm again, but this is Wyoming. And this is where I live. So have a great day. I wanted to just add one little thing to my video. Now the reason why when I save my seeds, I put how the summer was that year. Say it was cold and rainy, it was hot and humid. Any kind of information that will help me, I want to save so that when I know that I'm going to do the next summer, if I have heard on the weather that we're really supposed to have a lot of rain, I can pick tomato varieties that will be easier to grow during those seasons. And the reason why I do that is because this is a picture of my Grandma Reichert. She was a spectacular gardener. Her garden was probably, I used to say 1/4 of an acre, but I think it was larger than that even. And she, of course, had raspberries and strawberries and corn and all the different vegetables. But in her root cellar, she saved all of her seeds so that she didn't have to buy them each year. And she would put on the little jars, because she had little mason jars or jelly jars or baby food jars that people had given her. And she would write cool, wet summer, hot and humid summer. And that's what she chose when she was picking her seeds out. Now, she didn't go crazy like me and have 40 or 50 different kinds of tomatoes each year. She just had a few varieties. But sometimes there are people in your lives that as you grow up, they affect your life. And so I just wanted to share Grandma Reichert with you. She lived to be 96 years old, so she was doing some things right. So have a great day.